In the 1800s, my father's great-great-grandfather on his mother's side stopped the railroad. My name is Ruth Hopper, and I'm from the Laguna Pueblo village from New Mexico. My Indian name is Froetietza, which means rainbows. I guess today I'm telling you a little story about how we ended up in California.
The ultimate in comfort and luxury. The last word in modern design. Just how comfortable can train travel be? Well, here's the one and only answer to that question, the new Super Cheap.
It was a railroad that was actually the Pacific, and then later on changed to Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. And at that time, they felt that the railroad was too close to the village. It was right below, just before the river, and very close. So one day when the other grandfather went out, because the Apaches had just raided the village, the other grandfather stopped the railroad and said, "No more, it's too close." So they went into negotiation, and out of that negotiation came the watering, which is called now the watering of the flower. And it was a gentleman's handshake, and during those 1800s, around that time, I guess, it was considered a contract. They sat down, the railroad came, and they negotiated. I guess they thought of the future, actually, about their children and things that were changing. So one of the things that came out of that negotiation was that they would provide jobs, housing, and if they could, education. In 1922, there was a man named Charlie Kai, and the railroad needed men because of the strike that they were having. So he went home and recruited some more Pueblo men to come out to Richmond, and he didn't get enough men to come. So during that time, he had invited the Acoma people. So he recruited not very many, but a few, to come out to Richmond also, and that's how the Acoma people, Pueblo people, also arrived here in Richmond. And then the war came. In 1942, this time it was my mother's uncle that went to Laguna to recruit people. And they came, and that was because at that time in 42, the men that worked in Richmond ended up going for their physical and going to war. So there was blacksmiths, electricians. They were the ones that took care of the brakes, you know, because they used steel sand at that time. I think they still do too now, and the watering for the steam engines. Growing up, all the people in the village spoke Creese, the Laguna language, and the Acoma people also spoke their language. They're part of the Creese, listed as also Creese language also. They kept everything, customs, their activities of this society also, like Halloween and Easter and stuff like that. But then we also had the other side of things that we did during Easter in our village, you know.
The second morning out of Chicago. Raise your window shade, and there's California, the Golden State.
Since Richmond had become one of the, I guess, fast-growing little industrial cities, that Richmond became the main terminal on the West Coast. And during wartime, we would go to school, and I think mine was the 60s. but during that earlier year or two, when we were still young, though, we would see the men coming, servicemen in the train cars and waiting, and then leaving that and going south. Then later, Santa Fe had this promotion, and they used to have trips, I guess, along with Fred Harvey, and Fred Harvey designed native dinnerware, and used to be able to stop at the stations and have dinner, and then catch your train again. They'd be there for an hour, and you could have dinner or lunch, and then you would continue your trip. So my dad and the men performed at different stations, I think up until Bakersfield, and then Barstow sometimes performed, and then Winslow, or Gallup, actually. Gallup, because they used to have the Gallup ceremonial. But from Gallup, even now today, they have someone get on at Gallup, and they talk about the history of the Southwest and the Pueblos as they go into Albuquerque.